Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming back to my channel. Today, I want to talk to everyone about a subject that seems to have a bit of controversy. It has to do with MONEY, and it comes down to the subject of tipping. And there seems to be a lot of defensive thoughts, some thoughts about whether you're obligated to, whether you should or shouldn't, whether it's necessary or unnecessary. Just a quick background about myself. When I was 15 and a half, I started clearing tables in a really nice restaurant. Actually, it was a coffee shop, but it was nice in the San Francisco Bay Area. And it was in the late 60s. So it was a different time in the world. People were very generous. And we had some very high end clientele. A lot of the movie stars that stayed there performed in San Francisco or at a few of the local spots. And I was fortunate enough to know that if I catered to them specifically by serving them meals by the pool during the summer or in their room service, that their generosity spread out pretty evenly. And I took great advantage of it. I recall a time that my mother had to come to me and ask me for some rent money before I was 16. And I was able to almost pay the whole rent just out of my tips. I'd go home every night with pocketfuls. Okay, enough about me. What is the situation today and how does it occur and how has it come to the situation and the controversy that it's become? I never felt intimidated. I never felt that I had to unless I felt that the person that was giving me a service deserved it. I've never not tipped anybody unless they're just downright rude or they just don't perform at a level that I would expect. And I'm not setting a high standard here. It would simply mean helping me get my bags out of the trunk of a car, that kind of thing. And when they stand there with their hand in their pockets and their hand out, my generosity tends to sway, I should say. So anyway, I did go into a restaurant in Long Beach, California, about a year ago. Walked up to the counter, and I was buying lunch for my son and a couple friends. And after I'd ordered, the lady at the counter slides this thing in front of me, and it's, "Would you like to leave a tip?" And it went like, I may not have this in the right order, 5, 10, 15%, 25%. And I thought to myself, you didn't do anything. You didn't even say good afternoon. You didn't say good morning. You didn't ask me how I was. You just simply listen to me tell you what I wanted. And I don't feel I have a need to tip you. I didn't say that to her, but I didn't tip her. Anyway, a lot of people feel that they have a hard time understanding what it's like to be a waiter or waitress. I've been a waiter. I've been a busboy. I've been a cook. I grew up in that business, and where tipping was just as automatic as paying the bill. All right, so I guess I tend to be a little, softer in defending those people that work for their tip money, and I know a lot of things have changed. Believe me. Now you have to declare a certain portion of your tips, and I know a lot of people are from a customer base. They're a little more, how do I say this? Um, they're a little more conservative when it comes to tipping. And very often I've read and heard how wait staff feels offended that after waiting on 7 or 8 people at a table, including cocktails and meals and desserts, that there's like a 5% tip left on the table. And that's harsh. That's hard to take for a waiter or a waitress. And I could not imagine somebody having to pay a $400 or $500 food bill and leaving less than at least 15%. Um, I'm not trying to take sides here, believe me, but at the same time, I am expressing that I too sometimes I use Uber a lot. I use Lyft a lot. I don't go out to eat all that often. And if I do, it's not necessarily in a situation where I would tip somebody. But at the same time, I ask myself, having come from old school training, that when an Uber pulls up in front of an airline that I'm going to take, and he reaches down and pulls the handle and he pops the trunk open and sits there behind the wheel of the car, and I have to get out and get my own bags, and I should tip him? I don't think so. And so I want to say to these people, if you got out and not necessarily opened the door for me, but at least help me struggle with my luggage, I'd be more apt to leave you money. And the more you did help, actually, I would increase that tip. And they sit there, and for some reason, sitting behind the steering wheel seems to be more important. And I'm not being critical. Maybe they're instructed not to. Maybe it's just a personal thing they don't want to do. I don't know. But in a situation that we're in today's world, where I think that when people are traveling, they're a little looser with their money, and they tend to be a little more generous. So where does all this go? I have to be honest with you. One of the things I'm totally against is having a POS screen put in front of me and says, how much do you want to tip? It really turns me off. Okay. I believe that, if somebody goes out of their way, like I've walked into restaurants sometimes. I was in California a month ago, and I walked into a McDonald's on a Sunday afternoon, and I was the only person in the place. I'm not embarrassed to say I eat at McDonald's. And there were so many employees standing there with nothing to do. Half of them came over and sat with me and talked. And I speak a little Spanish, but at the same time, I don't think they were bored. They had nothing to do. And, I don't think they expected a tip, nor did I give one, but I found that interesting. So enough about me. But I'd like to open this up to some comments. I'd like to open this up to some questions. I'd like to hear what other people think and feel. Sometimes I feel that people are intimidated, that they have to tip. They're, not to be offensive, they're a little not sure. I don't want to use the word clueless, but, in today's world, going out to eat is not cheap, even to McDonald's. The situation I just mentioned to you there, I spent $17 for myself. Now I got a couple of cookies, and a large soda and that kind of thing, but at the same time, $17 at McDonald's. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that's a lot of money for one person, I think. And, so again, opening this up for conversation, opening this up for comments, positive, negative. I'd be very open to hear what other people have to say and what they feel. And if a situation that you've been involved in, I'd like to hear about it and comment possibly. And if you don't mind, you're in the mood, hit the like button. And if you're really in the mood, hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate that very much. And I hope I haven't offended anybody here today. And I'll hope to see you in the next video. There probably will be a part 2 and possibly even a part 3 to this subject. I just felt it was necessary at some point in time to bring it up and talk about it because I hear so many good stories and horror stories. And at the same time, I frankly think that there should be, some conversation. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.